Hey everybody, Screen Printer Mike here. I just received this file from Gerald at Merch Studio, who is a direct-to-film printer down in Texas. And he would like this file to have the realistic embroidery effect to it. And honestly, small detail like this is really just going to get lost in a program like Realistic Embroidery. However, I have developed a technique that I want to share with you in this video. And just being full disclosure, I'm going to just do this thing from scratch. But the Realistic Embroidery Plug-in, it's $15. It's from Envato. I have a link in this video and in my bio. And I am an affiliate, so I get a small chunk of that. I think it's fair for me showing all the great things you can do with this, especially what I'm about to show you. And I'm pretty sure I can pull it off with what I see. Fortunately, the layer situation we have here is we've got all the color on one layer, and then we have this black and white outline. However, do you see this little white outline? It's on that same layer. So I will have to deal with that. But for now, I'm just going to go to this outline layer here. And I want to find this white here. And I'm going to use the magic wand, but leave it off of continuous so that it grabs all the white in this file. And now I'm going to do a new layer via cut. Okay, I'm going to name that white just so I can keep track of it. And now I'll name the other layer black. Now, the plan is to do this, is to run the outline, both the black and white outlines, through the Realistic Embroidery module. And then we'll make some modifications, and then I'll show you the magical part that I made up all on my own to do the bottom. And the other files I've done have come out incredible, so I'm hoping for the same. So with that being said, and by the way, this isn't a typical video that I'm editing and going back over voiceover. You're just going to get as I go along. So if mistakes are done and I go a different direction, you're going to see my process right from the get-go. So I have the black layer selected here. And let me drag the white layer. When this thing starts its thing, it's going to make a bunch of layers. So I'm going to keep these down here for now. But right to it, I'm just going to click on border on this realistic embroidery. Now, this is the part that when it comes to posting this video, definitely going to speed up this part by as fast as I can, because this does take a while. But the premise, if you haven't used this before, is you click on this and then you see a bunch of stuff going over in the bottom right here on this video. It's making all these layers and doing all this stuff. It's going to make the outline. And then you'll do the fill area, which in this case, I'm going to choose small since the detail in here is small. And we'll fill all of that in. And then you'll see how that progresses. So this is a time to, well, for me is to wait, but you're going to get over it quickly. Okay, not too bad. You can see everything is red at this point. That means it's ready for the next thing, which is fill. So let's go for the small here, and I'm going to click fill area. Now, once again, this thing's going to do you're going to see it start filling in all of the gaps. And when it stops, you basically have to keep clicking fill until it tells you that, hey, I've got everything filled. So there it turned red again. I'm going to hit fill again. And there's not a lot of big open space in this outline, so it really shouldn't take that long. Right there, the area is full. Proceed with the render. And now I'm going to render. Okay, when you see it's blue, then you know the rendering is complete. Now, with it is at in a state right now, if I turn on the color below, even with this still blue, which we will switch to black, you see what's happened is this is so thick that a lot of this is why we can't do the fine little detail with this, is because it sort of expands all of this out. And you see what we're left with is it really just muddies everything up. And when I first ran into this, I thought to myself, how am I going to get good detail out of something like this? And the first thing we need to really look at is, let me pull the layers up here now that it's done this render. So here's the original black that's right here, and then these are all the output files. Now, this is going to be for direct-to-film transfer, and that is a printing process that doesn't like transparent pixels or stuff that's not solid. So one of the things I do immediately is turn this cloth displace off, and then I go and click this top area here and shift click to the bottom, and I merge visible. And what's going to happen is all this other stuff's going to come out that was not turned on, this leftover junk. So once again, I'm going to shift here, and I'm going to click here and then shift click to grab all of this, and I'm just going to trash this. And what I'm left with is this blue render here that's really too heavy and too thick. So my trick is, part of the trick, because there's a few in this module that I'm showing you, is to shift click on my original black. And if we get in here and we look really close, you can see all the extra stuff that it put outside of here, and that's what's filling all of that in. So with that being said, I'm going to go to the select menu and invert this menu, or invert this selection, and I'm going to delete. Now, it's a pretty drastic thing to do, but this is what I found works. Now the next thing I'm going to do is command click or control for you PC heroes on this output here, and I'm going to add a black and white adjustment layer, and I'm going to click on the tint and make sure it's a dark color. And then I'm going to go back and do the same thing, command click, but this time I'm going to add a levels adjustment. And I like taking the levels above the black and white here. And I'm going to go ahead and name this black stitch. It's nice to see what's going on as we're doing it. And now when we look at the stitch, you see it's this nice gray color, but this levels adjustment is going to allow us to lighten and darken this stitch. Okay? We still want some contrast in there, but ultimately we want it to print black. Okay, good enough for now. So I'm going to shift or click and then shift click all of this, and I'm just going to group it and just put outline on it. I'm going to go ahead and drag in that other, even though it's not turned on, the original. Now let's do the white. Same way. I'm just going to click and wait for this thing to do its magic. Now, what I just showed you where I'm adding the black and white and the levels, that's not how they tell you to do it. This is a technique I've been using for years to color things. I like the control I get because I can literally make those black stitches any color with the black and white adjustment layer and the levels. So I can get any color, any shade that you might change later and you want that a different color. So the white, it did its thing pretty quick, so we're going to fill it with the small. There's not a whole hell of a lot of detail in there. And you're going to see this thing is, this bottom part is going to go so quickly you won't believe it. And finally I'm going to render, and then this thing will turn blue when it's done. And then it'll be time to remove all the junk like I did with the other one. Whoever wrote this, it's genius. I see exactly what it's doing, but it just saves a tremendous amount of time. And the effects, especially for DTF, it's incredible. Okay, it looks like it's done with the white. So, same thing here. I'm going to turn off this cloth displace, and then with this selected, I'm going to shift and hold down and merge visible. And then I'm going to grab everything that doesn't have the eye showing, and I'm going to ditch it. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the black. Is I'm going to command click on the actual white that I started with, and I'm going to inverse that selection, and then while selected on here, I'm going to delete. Then that's going to make all those edges clean. Now let me get this down here. And it's time to add the black and white. I'm going to tint this. You can tint it white. It's really not tinting it white, but Command click. I'm going to add the levels. And then drag it above. Okay. Now we're going to come in here really close and look at this. And then with the levels, see, I can get that white stitch. Okay, there we go. I've got some contrast in there. So yeah, this is going to be great. Okay, I'm going to grab all four of these and group these together. I'm going to call that outline white. Okay, so now this is where we're at. We've got all this graphic looking underneath there. Now it's time to do this color all in one fell swoop. Don't need this anymore. Now, I'm going to command click and make a selection here. I'm going to drop down to this layer and add a layer so it's underneath. Okay. And now I have, where are they at? My patterns. Now, if you go to my links, which is like a beacons link, you'll find all my free stuff. But one of the things you'll find is embroidery patterns. So this is a pattern that I've made. And you simply click and you see it's filling that whole background, that selection with the pattern. I'm going to go with this mid one right here, okay? And now, when I jump up on this layer, if I set this to overlay, now you can see what looks like an embroidered fill stitch underneath. Now this, when you double click on this pattern fill, you can do stuff like scale this as well. And that lets you get more or less. You can kind of see the little strings poking through here. So really it's up to you how you want all of this. I don't think this angle is really, maybe, yeah, the angle's sort of shifting it a little bit. So I guess it is. But now when you turn on this outline, we have an absolutely beautiful rendering. And mind you, there's some little things around here that aren't perfect on here, but if you know anything about embroidery and stitching, it's not a perfect science either. So that's not a bad thing. And the good thing about this too is, let's say that you're looking at this and you're like, hey, this, I can see this black stitch here. It's a little dark. I don't like that. Well, we'll just go to that layer and we can see what it's, you know, made of here. It's this stitch right here is the black stitch that we had created. So with that selected, then you could go here and go to the burn tool and you could darken this up a little bit just to knock it down some. So if anything's sticking out, and then once all of this is merged together, then you could certainly Photoshop and fix stuff as you saw necessary. So don't be afraid to go in there and make modifications or darken up stuff. See that burn tool's just adding some color to the grayscale. But I like this a lot. When this is printed on a shirt, it's going to be fabulous. And another thing to note too is that I do have the black layer up here on top and then the white underneath it. And so that's consideration too that you want to take. Usually black is the layer that looks best on top. But at this point, we're not done yet, kids, because we got to get this thing worthy of direct to film, which means that we need to make sure that the transparent layer back here is completely transparent. Now, this will work for any DTF PNG file that you're going to make, but here's what it is. I'm still on the original file here, so I'm just going to save as, real quick, I'm just going to call this AAA bird so it lands on the top when I go looking for it, okay? So AAA top. And now I'm going to open the original file. There it is. And I'm going to arrange my workspace to being 2 up. Let me drag this layers back down here for a second. Because there's some things we want to do before we finish off the bird here, okay? So I'm happy with everything right now except maybe the saturation level in this bird. You see it's not as bright and popping, but I've got the black and white where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and merge visible there. You see it spit out the 2 that I'm not using, the original outlines. So I'm going to ditch those. And now on the color with this underneath it, I'm going to merge those. Wow, that's really thinking about it. Don't crash on me. Do not crash. Okay. I didn't think it would, but you know. Okay, the background, not going to need it. So now, before I merge this all together as one nice layer, this will let me go in and I can command click this and I can add an adjustment layer here. I can go for hue saturation and I can add some saturation. Do I like that? How it's going? Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. This is where you really have to decide what you want to do here. And let's get a close up side by side. Bird head. Okay, you see the difference here. You see we kept this detail in the eye. It's incredible. The little detail here. All of this is great. I'm happy with where this is at now. So over on this file, I'm going to merge visible, which will be everything. and it will still have the transparent background. And then the last thing I'm going to do is over here is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to merge every visible item on here. And I'm going to command click, which will select all of this. I'm going to inverse that selection. And then I'm going to save that selection. Okay, now it's time to go look in the channels, turn off everything, and go and look. Okay, you see there's some little transparency stuff going on, stuff that was showing through a little bit. We can't have that, folks. So with this alpha channel selected, I'm going to hit levels. This is going to show you where all the color's at. You see I've got some mostly black, mostly white, hardly nothing in the middle, but there's this lingering stuff here. So we need to at least pull all of that out, and we want to pull up here somewhere in the nice center. I don't mind these little pieces gone. This is just where stuff's going to show through. That's fine. But I'm going to hit OK. Now I have a clean black and white channel. And I'm going to take that channel, and this is why I'm side by side. I'm going to hold the shift key down. I'm going to grab this alpha channel and drop it over here. Now with that on here in the RGB channels, I'm going to command click. You see now it's got everything of the background selected. Okay. And then if I go to the layers, where the hell did it go? Let me pull it up here. Okay, I'm on RGB. I'm on the layers. Now I'm going to just hit delete to delete out any of that garbage. And this, my friends, is a clean file that should print like a champ. Remember, the embroidery pattern is in my links. You can find me on TikTok, Screen Printer Mike, all of that. My links are out there where you can find all the free files that I've done, tons of stuff. And of course, the link to the Realistic Embroidery, $15 if you're going to be doing this. Yeah, it's worth it for sure. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like my videos. I'm trying to grow here, people. Love you all and hope you enjoyed this video.